The Rutgers Graduate School of Applied and Professional Psychology opened its doors to the first students in the fall of 1974. The school was created to broaden and deepen the skills of master's-level psychologists who were working in New Jersey's institutions and agencies, and to meet the increasing need for new, well-trained psychologists in New Jersey and beyond. The program was designed to train students to become practitioners in communities, professional psychologists who could integrate scientific knowledge with innovation in the delivery of psychological services. The Doctor of Psychology degree would be awarded in clinical and school psychology, and later in organizational psychology. In the 1960s, the training of doctoral-level psychologists as practitioners was a concept that was surfacing within academic psychology. During this time, Dr. Don Peterson at the University of Illinois and an increasing number of university professors began describing new ways to train doctoral-level professional psychologists.
I had written a book. I'd been working on it for a long time, but the very same year that the PsyD program opened at Illinois, 1968, my book called The Clinical Study of Social Behavior was published, and that was my manual for both the PhDs and the PsyDs for the kind of profession I thought we needed. A pragmatically effective, functionally oriented idea about psychology as a way of studying and helping people as individuals, as groups, and as organizations.
We were very much influenced by Don's work at the University of Illinois, the notion that a separate degree, a PsyD, was the only way we could conceive of it. We had many internal debates about whether we should have a PhD or a PsyD. No way. PsyD was where we were going. This was going to be a professional school.
In 1969, a group of prominent New Jersey psychologists came together as the Organizing Council for a College of Professional Psychology. They were responding to the need for doctoral-level practitioners to work in New Jersey's institutions and agencies and to provide more therapeutic services to the public. There were also more personal motivations.
I arrived in New Jersey in '53 and was with the VA and went into full-time practice in '58. By the middle '60s, I was a very lonely guy. And I think this is probably what was the personal motivation for getting engaged in this kind of enterprise. And Stan, you chime in terms of when we started moving towards organizing something, but I know our original impulse was to reproduce ourselves. You know, once you get married, then you want to have kids. And once you want to establish a community, you have to establish a population.
Why would we do it? I think the major motivation was our dissatisfaction with our own education. We were mostly trained by academics with little to no practical experience with patient problems and the treatment thereof. Most of us, when we received our doctoral degree, were more competent to do research than to deliver clinical services. To become competent practitioners, we had to seek our own personal therapies and get clinical experience. We wanted something better for the students of New Jersey and the public we serve. I think we succeeded.
The Organizing Council met on Sunday mornings over several years to plan a professional school. Meetings were held with academics, politicians, and representatives from the colleges and universities of New Jersey in hopes of finding the best home for the school, and with heads of agencies, schools, and hospitals to arrange for settings where students could gain supervised experience doing therapy and assessment. They were determined, hardworking, and passionate in their commitment to create a professional school and were willing to make significant contributions of their own time and financial resources.
The excitement. So when we went to the hearing that was held by the Board of Higher Education, because the Board of Higher Education had by this time, with a lot of involvement with us, convinced that we were going to have a school in New Jersey. The question was where it was going to be. In fact, One of the things we did, I want to make sure that we remind ourselves about this, is that we held a meeting in which a fundraiser was invited to come, and he was going to bring in all the money to create this school. And as a matter of fact, Prudential, I remember, gave us $5,000. But he told us, you know, you can't ask for money until you put up money yourself. Well, there were 20 people in the room, and we raised $100,000 at that meeting. I remember I went home and I said, hey, Pat, I just pledged $5,000 to the school. She said, you did what? Well, okay, we all did. By then, it was a commitment. It was in our hearts and in our pocketbooks.
I guess I would just want to add my appreciation to the members of the organizing council, without whom I don't think we would exist today. I mean, these were psychologists who truly had a vision, were truly devoted to professional psychology, and recognized that there were not enough, they were thinking primarily clinical psychologists, but not only, being produced for the welfare of the nation. That was not going to change unless really something new happened. And they were the ones who pushed the agenda. They were the ones with the political connections and know-how. They were willing to put their money where their mouth was.
A number of us went around to every agency in New Jersey, every clinic, and talked to them about the school as we hoped it would be. We didn't know where it was going to be. We didn't know it was going to be Rutgers, where at that time. But every place we talked, every department, every hospital, they were happy to know that we would be there. They would offer externships. We weren't sure where the money was going to come from, but we were already building relationships with clinical agencies around New Jersey who were going to be of support to the school wherever it was going to be. Well, anyway, like you know, they decided it was going to be Rutgers, and of course, in retrospect, I'm delighted. It would have been a big mistake to have gone to the New Jersey College of Medicine and Dentistry, I think.
At that time, it was not clear whether a university or a medical school would make a better home for the school. The University of Medicine and Dentistry and Rutgers University were the two leading contenders, and each had submitted a proposal to the state outlining their respective virtues.
But still, it was clear to me that professional training in psychology didn't do best in medical schools. So each group wrote a proposal for a PsyD program, and very much involved in all of this were Jack Barden and Virginia Bennett, who were the directors and the central figures in probably the best school psychology program in the country. And they were in the College of Education, but it became very clear to us that they thought very much like we did in terms of professional training. Their training of school psychologists was more along the PsyD model, and they provided superb training. And so we made common cause with Jack and Virginia, and that was a great strength to our side. And we envisioned a graduate school of professional psychology that would include school psychology and clinical psychology.
Jack Barden, Peter Nathan, Virginia Bennett, the major forces, I think, in the academic definition of the program, along with Maury and Stan and the practitioners who'd had a policy voice in the way the program would be designed, the way faculty supervision would be conducted, the way both of dissertations and of the professional work. It seemed to me a remarkably well-balanced program, and one that represented what to what seemed to me to be the future of psychology. It seemed to me this was the way to go.
A group from the organizing council, and myself included, met with Dr. Dungan, or arranged to meet with Dr. Dungan to discuss the plan. With us, however, was the president of the Senate of the state of New Jersey, Matthew Feldman, who was highly interested in education. And as we began our visit, Dr. Dungan greeted us, and when he saw Senator Feldman, who was strongly in our corner, this was the greeting. "Hey, Matty, I'm so glad to see you." And they both embraced. And with that, the Matty pointed to me, Dr. Weitz, the executive vice president of the organizing council and acting dean, but not without introduction. "Ralph, I want you to meet my friend Bobby." And I thought, this is pretty well sealed.
That's how politics works. It's, who do you know? Matty baby. Matty was very helpful just by leading us to the chancellor, who was already in support of what we wanted to do.
At the final meeting, before the decision was made to award the school program to Rutgers, there was a heated discussion with the presidents of Rutgers and the medical school in a heated way, which in my opinion could have come to blows at the meeting because they were so firmly in favor of having their school be awarded the Graduate School of Applied and Professional Psychology.
The decision by the State Board of Higher Education was to place the school at Rutgers University. There was little time between this decision being announced and the date set for opening the new professional school. Important positions needed to be filled with people who would bring the needed administrative expertise.
They hired me. I started August 14th, 1974, a day that shall go down in my personal history. And Peter gave me a whole set of documents about how everything had gone on, how the medical school had wanted this, the role of the organizing committee, how it had gone to Rutgers, and he gave me tasks that I had to do. I had to write a catalog, I had to draw up bylaws, I had to get, things all set for the students who were coming in. And then he gave me a hug and a kiss and said he's off to APA and he'd see me, a few days before school opened up.
The new professional school was built upon the faculty of the existing Rutgers PhD program in clinical psychology. With the support and input of the chair of the Rutgers Psychology Department, the school received its rather lengthy name. A program of studies was created that represented the major approaches to psychotherapy, and the school's first dean was hired.
People in the psychology department who were non-clinical, experimental, cognitive, learning, what have you, were on this committee and were very supportive of the idea of this school and very helpful in formulating this proposal. One thing I remember about it, which might be of interest, is that there was discussion about what the school should be called. And it was proposed that it be called the Graduate School of Professional Psychology. Mike D'Amato, who I believe was then chair of the psychology department, said, well, he too was a professional psychologist, as were all his colleagues. I'm not exactly sure why, because we don't usually think of experimental psychologists as being professionals in the usual sense of the term. So we batted this back and forth for a while and then came up with the term applied and professional psychology. So it was very clear that the kind of professional psychologist we were talking about was an applied professional psychologist. maybe it's a good thing because that way at least the name or the acronym for the school was pronounceable.
That's about the time I came to Rutgers, and this school opened up. The first I heard about it, well, Stanley Moldowski sitting over there and I had been on many an APA symposium panel arguing the notion of professional schools and the practitioner degree. So the ideological conflict between these ways of thinking about things was in the air. I read in the Monitor that Rutgers was going to create a school of professional psychology. I had become the editor of a journal by then, the Journal of Abnormal Psychology. I had some interest in research. I was resigning from administrative work, going to go back to research and teaching, and had no notion of coming to Rutgers as dean. And it was a very welcome experience for me to come to Rutgers, where there were people like Maury and Stan and others, and on the faculty, Stan Messer, who was not only sympathetic toward psychodynamic views, but very knowing and one of the leaders ideologically, theoretically, and practically in the field. To have that, as well as the likes of Cyril Franks and Arnie Lazarus and Terry Wilson, who were more behaviorally inclined, was a great treat because it was the comprehensive, interactive kind of training program that I had become convinced we needed to have.
We had an extraordinarily cohesive group of full-time faculty, people who came from different theoretical perspectives, from different backgrounds. Arnie and Stan, for example, could not be more different in many ways. But there was a great deal of mutual respect, and we worked together very well. You know, university departments have, especially psychology departments, have a reputation for Byzantine politics. And I've seen that since I went back to the faculty at Iowa. It's amazing. Well, we didn't have any of that. None of it. People just got along and worked together toward this common goal. And the goal was to be the very best we could be.
This has formed, I think, an important part of the spirit of GSAPP, that students have been exposed to different viewpoints and have had to struggle with the kind of creative tension that I think exists, because they say, gee, these guys look right and these guys look right. What am I going to do with this? And I think has produced a certain kind of graduate who is more flexible, open in their thinking than I think was typically true of professional psychology programs.
The spirit in this school was one of pluralism, was one of, it was okay to be who you were becoming, and you had the room to find that.
The practitioners of the organizing council, as well as other New Jersey psychologists, played a central role in the new school as both visiting professors and clinical supervisors.
Well, I discovered at Illinois that we could not run the PsyD program without the help of practitioners in the community who knew what they were doing in the field, who had the connections in the community that we faculty members in our ivory tower did not have.
I think that the presence of the adjunct faculty made a huge difference in the attitude that we came out of the school with, because we see that our academic colleagues don't have the same fervor that we do. They're not in the trenches. They don't know what a particular bill, licensure bill, will do to the profession. They don't quite appreciate what managed care can do to practitioners and to their patients. They're not thinking in terms of what it means to be able to attest to somebody's mental status or commit somebody to a mental institution. That's just not where their heads are. But the people who are in the trenches and doing the work know it and are teaching it to the students.
What was fascinating to me, even though very important to make sure that these things happen so that the core faculty were in charge, we never, ever had a vote that split between core faculty and practitioners. That eventuality that I had been concerned about never came about. We had many splits, many different ways, but never the core faculty versus the adjuncts, as far as I remember.
I can't tell you how important it was to have a real therapist sit down with us for an hour and hear our fumbling beginnings of trying to be therapists and trying to become authoritative in sessions when we didn't feel confident, and just how helpful it was to have people understand that because they had been doing it and they knew what it was like. We modeled after our supervisors quite a bit and are forever thankful for that opportunity.
The first class in school and clinical psychology were admitted in September of 1974, consisting of master's level psychologists who were working in the state schools, institutions, and agencies.
Our first student group came in of all master's level people. And we did have a wonderful program. People came part-time. They had to be there all day Friday, everybody, and they could take courses during the rest of the week. And on Friday, we had something that worked for 2 years, or didn't work for 2 years, but it was a wonderful way of bringing community together. Everybody, faculty and students from both programs, met together for an hour and a half and discussed everything there was to discuss with a new school. They discussed courses, who should be teaching, supervision. Should we have comprehensive exams? No, we shouldn't have comprehensive exams. This is a practitioner program. What about a dissertation? No, we don't want dissertations. Yes, you have to have dissertations. It was forcing a community to come together.
We need to say that that class went on and did wonderful things for psychology. They have been among the leaders in New Jersey psychology and American psychology because we weren't spending so much time on the academic side as they would have wanted. We were paying very close attention to another very important lesson that we got from the adjunct faculty. And those were the people who were practitioners, the people from the organizing council like Stan Moldowski and Maury Goodman and Al Shire and Bobby Whites, who taught us not only how to be good clinicians, how to be good therapists, how to be good school psychologists, but how to advocate for psychology and how important it was to keep being a voice for psychology out there in the world. We heard it, we listened to it, we did it.
With the addition of the program in organizational psychology in 1986, GSAPP was able to offer training across the whole range of professional psychology.
So I feel this added an important component to GSAPP and has contributed not only a third leg to the program, but also has influenced the thinking of certainly the school psychologists and the clinical psychologists as well. They're very strong advocates for the organizational program, in part because the teaching of the OP faculty, Carrie, Clay, and other visiting faculty has been very strong. And there is a distinct viewpoint there, which does not come through as clearly in clinical or school programs. So I like to think of it as the three programs acting synergistically, of one sort of helping the other and adding to the whole package.
For over 30 years, the deans and faculty of GSAPP have worked to make the school a place where racially, culturally, and internationally diverse students would feel welcomed and invited to bring their own unique perspectives into professional psychology. GSAPP continues to be a leading model of a program that is committed to lessening the suffering that all people face from discrimination due to gender, sexual orientation, race, class, disabilities, and poverty.
We didn't have a very diverse faculty at the time. In 1974, if I recall correctly, we had 2 women who were tenured faculty, and that was Virginia Bennett and Sandra Harris. And the entire rest of the tenured faculty was male. We had the secretarial staff was all female, and I was kind of in the middle. And we did have a few students of African American background who were in the first program, as I believe. But it became very obvious, to me at least, and I think to the rest of the faculty, that if we were going to have a genuine group that would get out there and work in the various communities, whether in schools or in as private practitioners or in community work, that it really was very important to reflect what was the population of New Jersey.
I came into the job with a personal commitment that was consistent with GSAPP's commitment to welcoming students of color. But in retrospect, as we went through the work that we did as a school over the course of the next 5 years or so, I came to realize that while I had a sincere commitment, what I lacked was a real understanding of the experience of being a student of color at GSAPP. I think about it now as our having said to students of color when they came, "Oh, we're glad to have you here. Now you're white just like us, and you're welcome to have a seat at the table." As opposed to, "We're glad to have you here. You're going to make us a richer and more vibrant culture." And it was that process of my coming to understand that about myself, and many of my colleagues coming to that same understanding, primarily about students of color, but also about gay, lesbian, bisexual students, about people who along some dimension or another were not your standard white bread heterosexual folks. And there was a very real change that occurred during that period of time. It was because of that, it was a stressful time. There was a lot of tumult attached to it. We had a lot of painful meetings as faculty trying to grapple with these issues and come to a better understanding ourselves of what it meant to welcome people who are not the same as us. And now, of course, when I say the same as us, another major change is that there now are the faculty people of color, that us is no longer a bunch of white folk. Us is now a much more heterogeneous group, faculty and the staff also.
GSAPP has been the home of the Psychological Clinic since its founding in 1974, but the clinic has a long history at Rutgers University. The clinic has always served the needs of university students and the people of New Jersey while providing a training site for student therapists.
The clinic at GSAPP is 75 years old this year. It was founded in 1929 when Dr. Henry Starr, who came to Rutgers as the new chair of the new psychology department, was given a mandate by the Commissioner of Institutions and Agencies in New Jersey, Commissioner Ellis, to start a mental health clinic that would be based in the university, that would combine service to the people of New Jersey plus research and training of students. He was given $500 to start this clinic in 1929, and he did it. The clinic has remained as part of Rutgers University at various locations on College Avenue, on the Douglas campus, and now on the Bush campus. It's remained there for 75 years, providing psychological services to the people of New Jersey and to the Rutgers community.
The GSAPP Psychological Clinic at Rutgers was only the second such university training clinic in the country. Leitner Whitmer had established the first at University of Pennsylvania in 1896, and his graduate student, Henry Starr, then brought the model to Rutgers. Henry Starr died in 1935 after only 6 years of developing the clinic. Fortunately, his wife, Anna Speisman Starr, had been assistant director of the clinic and was able to guide it under a series of faculty directors until 1944, when she was named director. She continued with great dedication to direct the clinic until her retirement in 1956. She was given the Rutgers University Award in 1954, Rutgers' highest honor for distinguished professional service in all her work as a professor and longtime director of the clinic.
I thought these characters had set it up right, and I was glad to become a member of the team. We worked together, I think, in a congenial fashion from the start. Blessed Ruth Shulman had already come on as the person who would become the guiding light for staff, and the kind of mollifying, bring them together influence that the program needed. We were forming a community, and it was a kind of exciting place to come to. I was very pleased, and I've never been disappointed in that. I feel that to this day.
We were absolutely determined that it was going to work, and it did.
Yeah.
Don set a fantastic foundation, and I see the school hopefully going on, into the 22nd century. The energy that came from the various, as I say, the departments, from the practitioners, from the core faculty, from these amazing students with their different backgrounds. It was just wonderful. And what can I say? But this was 25 of the most beautiful years of my life.